Hi, I'm Peter Carlberg. I've lived on the west side since 1979. I was on the Grand Rapids City Planning Commission for 8 years. I've been a neighborhood resident in this neighborhood by John Ball for 24 years. Theoretically, the benefits of downtown development would be there would be more things there for people to do. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have much in the way of retail downtown anymore, and that doesn't look like it's coming back. While there weren't many people living downtown at the time this has been redeveloped, so I'm not sure that there were that many people displaced downtown. This is certainly not gentrification on the west side here. This is just student housing, and it's typical landlord exploitation of student housing costs. So those things have shot up, and you have landlords that basically have been outbidding and outbuying families when these houses come up on the market. So the percentage of homeowners is dropping very rapidly in these neighborhoods, and that's definitely on the downside. Well, we've always had quite a few students in Grand Rapids. And I don't know that Grand Valley itself is. I don't know what proportion of the students living in the city would be Grand Valley, but we've worked with them in the neighborhood association for many years, and they've been very good at least trying not to negatively impact us too badly. And only recently, this whole thing with student housing, apparently students willing to pay rather high exorbitant rents, has definitely triggered a lot of landlords to get rid of their regular tenants and jack the rent up for students. So there's been a lot of turnover and a lot of people complaining about that. And there's a lot of people in the neighborhoods complaining about landlords buying single-family homes and turning them into college rentals. Which hadn't been a factor before, but now is a big one. And of course that creates all sorts of parking headaches. A lot of these neighborhoods are only serviced by alleys. Most of the people in this particular block don't even have driveways. And so when you start adding student housing in the middle of this block, it gets really tight for parking, especially with odd even parking. Grand Valley, I don't think of so much as as them coming in and displacing people, because they basically bought up a lot of derelict property, and they've been very good at staying quite close to the river, and they've worked with the neighborhood association and said, no, we're not going to go anywhere west of Seward Street, and keeping us apprised of their long-term plans. I think this student housing wave that came through was a little unexpected even by them, because they had kept us apprised of what they thought, student housing pressures would be in the area, and it caught them, I think, a little by surprise. We have, in fact, dealt with some developers that came here from Ann Arbor and looked around, and they decided not to develop in Grand Rapids because students weren't willing to pay rents as high as Ann Arbor. Well, la-di-da-di-da, a couple of years later, they are. Well, I probably beat up on the landlords enough, okay? And they are a huge problem. But it's not just, there are some players that have a lot of properties, but there's also a million copycats that have, one or two or three. There's a whole bunch of copycats that aren't very good at being landlords. And if you talk to some of the people who deal with housing issues involved with that, some of them have more trouble with all the amateurs than with the pros. But there's an awful lot of copycat entrepreneurs just turning the west side upside down, in order to get in on the high price student rental market.